and welcome again to another episode of the Coltech Austin Tech Leaders podcast series. Today I've got the absolute pleasure of being joined by Rich Robinson, the CTO of Standard Industries. Rich can only be described as a high energy leader, deep experience deploying technology-driven solutions for high growth global organizations. Really known in the industry as a roll up your sleeves, creative and collaborative leader with a passion for building high performance teams. Rich, obviously I could probably go on into more detail on introduction, but rather than me jabbering on, it's probably best if you take over and tell us a little bit more about yourself and your career to date and how you've ended up with Standard Industries.
Well, sure. And, I always start addressing the elephant in the room. If you pick up on a bit of an accent, that comes from my West Virginia upbringing. I do ask my mom, I said, do I have an accent? And she assures me, no, baby, I don't have an accent. But others seem to pick up on it. As long as I can remember, I have been interested in technology. I mean, all the way back to whether it was teaching myself to code BASIC on my Radio Shack TRS-80, or gaming on my Atari and Commodore 64. So I'm definitely dating myself by throwing out some of those tech references. But I've always been passionate about technology. And so, when it came time for career choice, moving on for an electrical engineering degree seemed like an obvious path for me. And when I took an Army scholarship to pay for that education, I discovered my second passion, which is leadership. And so over the last 24 years, I've just been super fortunate to be building and leading teams that have been leveraging technology to either complete the mission when it came to the Army or to deliver and solve on problems when it's come to my corporate career. And over the last 3 years, as you said, I've had the opportunity to apply that trade here at Standard Industries.
It's strange, like for all the different sort of conversations that we've had and different people we've had on the podcast, a large percentage started off life or have had some experience within the military, whether that's training or, being a veteran or whatever it may be. Clearly, it's a breeding ground for leadership and I suppose having the organizational skills to run projects and lead teams. Having that experience, not necessarily the Army or background, but having that before you've stepped into technology has set you in good stead for what you've gone on to achieve.
It really has. And I think, some of the things that you pick up in that type of environment, what counts is delivering the mission. And so what that means is it's not a prescribed methodology. It's not a specific way. What counts the most is getting the job done when you're in situations like that. And what matters is teamwork. You are completely reliant on your team in these situations. And so being flexible in approach and focused on results and really getting to build a cohesive team. In the military, you are not only a team, you're living with that team.
Yeah,
you spend much more time with that team, in some cases for years even, than your family. And so understanding the dynamics of teamwork and getting things done, I think that really comes across when you hire veterans. And it's a real plug for those veterans out there that may not be able to translate that resume into civilian speak. But let me assure you, if you're looking for an egoless leader who will get the job done, you can hire a veteran.
Yeah, but there was a big project that we done, obviously before we sort of moved out to the Austin market when I first started in recruitment. It was part of central government in the UK, so the Cabinet Office, and they was building a top secret IT system. A lot of the people that were brought onto the project for the sort of project management, PMO, delivery management type roles were ex-military, and that's something that they actually looked out for. Not necessarily have to have the technical knowledge, but the ability to sort of see a problem, work with a team to be able to solve that. It's obviously served you in really, really good stead for where you are at the moment. So as I touched on in the introduction, you're currently leading the CTO of Standard Industries, huge enterprise business, so many other sub-businesses below that. Tell us a little bit more about what you're doing there at the moment, because we spoke off camera previously and before that, and turning around, well, I mean, you'll explain it more, but the job that you've got there is pretty huge.
Yeah, I think I'm the luckiest man on earth right now with the job that I have. And so, a little about Standard, and I think you touched on it, with the publicly available information, but we are a global privately held industrial company. We serve as the parent to multiple operating companies, and with a focus really on building materials such as roofing and waterproofing and specialty chemicals. So really legacy industries, companies that have been around in some cases for over 100 years, building, real physical products that we use here in the real world. And, through our various companies, we're over $9 billion in annual revenue. We're in 80 different countries and we have over 20,000 employees. So, a sizable company. And my job is to work with those operating companies, with those CEOs and presidents and those executive teams to really formulate the digital strategy, and I say an appropriately aggressive digital transformation strategy, and then deliver on it. And so I do have responsibility for enterprise IT throughout the organization as well as part of that delivery mechanism.
So it's, a huge undertaking. And so a lot of the people, again, sort of going back to previous episodes or people that we've been involved with or had conversation with, are probably some more smaller organizations, either startup, mid-sized businesses. They come with their own issues or things that come up. You're dealing with, as say, a 9 billion revenue business, so many different spinning plates. But how are you managing to keep on top of everything and change the thinking of a business, a legacy-based enterprise business, to bring it into the modern world? That must be a really difficult challenge that you're facing, but a very good one to be involved in as a tech leader. It's a really interesting opportunity.
Oh, well, it is. And what brought me here was the chance to apply what I had learned in the software industry or the telecom industry, some of these industries that are further along than the legacy industries that we're working with today, to apply that to real world products and to apply that at scale. And when I mentioned that I'm lucky, it's because the single most important ingredient to having a successful transformation, specifically in large, successful legacy companies, is the CEO. In our cases, the CEOs. We have two CEOs, David Winter, David Millstone. They have to be the champion. And no, I did not say they have to be supportive, but it has to be a strategic imperative. It has to be something that they are leading from the front, because specifically in a legacy industry, look, enterprise IT is viewed, as a commodity in many cases, or a call center, or at minimum, it's something that is a known quantity and you engage in projects. But as you embark on transformation, you're talking about a mindset shift. And I think it was Satya Nadella who said every company is now a software company.
Yeah.
And that comes with the need to have this mindset shift. And what does that mean? It means that you have to have the ability to experiment. It means that you have to understand, and your culture needs to be accepting that many experiments will actually fail. It's a sign that you're pushing the envelope and you're actually pushing on innovation. And so, to do that in a legacy industry, you may have to add KPI or change KPI. You may have to adjust your reward system. It requires a change in thinking. And so, those are things that the CEO and CEOs are key to do. And so I'm very fortunate that not only are David and David extremely supportive, it's their vision, but my partners, the CEOs and the presidents of our company, share that vision that, we know that our industries will be disrupted, and our goal is to be the disruptor.
The industries that you're involved in, obviously manufacturing and sort of the larger sort of the roofing tiles and everything that we spoke about before, building materials, it's not usually the type of industry that you'd associate with digital transformation, but quite rightly, like you mentioned, all businesses now in this day and age have to look at following a digital path or becoming a software business. And it's really interesting thing that you mentioned about the CEOs having to champion that change, because one of the questions I always ask is, how can you best prepare your business for success in the transformation? As a CEO, you say you have to have that person at the front to be the one who's leading, and not someone, because a lot of businesses, and you've seen this before, and plenty of times, we've all seen it. A company like, well, we're going to do this, but they're not really behind it. And then 6 months later, the project fails and they're like, oh, well, we tried. And then they give up and then they just carry on the thing, and then they get bypassed by their competitors. So that must, I suppose, in that question, how do you best prepare your business for success in a large scale digital transformation? Having everyone in the business on the same trajectory or the same mindset is sort of key to that.
It really is. You need that top-down framework, that top-down, buy-in. And then, of course, the innovation is ground up. So, but it's so key. And so, look, that's not something everyone has the opportunity to directly influence. It was a selection criteria for me, right? I was able to opt in to this amazing company that had that fundamental ingredient in place. But of course, look, there's still challenges, right? I mean, we're in a world where building materials are in high demand, and we need to make sure that we continue to deliver our products, our physical products that are in high demand. But at the same time, we know that we have to advance the ball in all phases of our business on digital. And so figuring out how to do that without disrupting, the core business is something that we think a lot about and we're very careful with.
As part of the work you've been doing, obviously, like a big thing everyone's faced, something that's caused a huge amount of issues, is obviously the pandemic and how that's changed society in general, but obviously how it's in some ways pushed forward the digital transformation for a lot of businesses. Did that affect what you're doing at all?
Certainly. And I think that, what you'll hear from me, you've heard from others, it accelerated things that were already in motion, right? And so, looking at our largest North America business, GAF, which makes roofing materials, we manufacture the roofing materials and we sell that through the channel. And ultimately, the roofers that are installing these are generally small and medium businesses. And they may not have someone that is dedicated to IT, right? In many cases, they're working with limited tool sets. This is a kitchen table transaction, as we say here, and a handshake transaction. And so when the pandemic hit, fortunately, we had already been working on solutions that would allow them to, quote, work without physically being there on the site using satellite imagery and AI or online tools that would allow them to actually conduct a sale and transaction without physically being there. And so what we saw was probably a more rapid adoption of those tools that we were already working on. Back of the envelope, I would say at least 2 years of adoption, if not more, happened in that first 6 months of the pandemic as a necessity. And that's very sticky, right? So we see that the usage on these tools continues to increase. So it was definitely an acceleration of our digital transformation.
Yeah, as you say, through people being forced to use that way of working or work in a different way rather than, as you say, the kitchen table handshake manner of working, it does remain sticky there, and that does push you forward as a business. I mean, the whole thing about all of this is convenience, isn't it? Like the reason why you're digitizing everything is the convenience to the consumer. At the beginning of the pandemic, I started renovating my house. My partner, she was pregnant at the time, moved back to my parents' house. I'll take 2 months, easy, put an extension on. Pandemic hit, you couldn't get building materials anywhere. If you heard that all of a sudden a business had a delivery of, plaster or, some more plaster boards or bricks or whatever, you're engaged on the line for 2 hours trying to get through because everyone's heard about it. Having the ability, obviously you guys had not foreseen that, but it's seen as a change of the business that you would have to adopt the digital ways of working. Being able to put that in, and then consumers like myself or whoever, people were trying to get building materials at the time, seeing that that's a much easier way of doing it, it obviously accelerates the usage of it, but then also brings new customers to you. I knew that I was going to get to a point at some point in that. It would bring new customers because people that were used to, I'd ring the local builders merchants or whoever it may be, or where we buy our materials from. Now they've got a business, and obviously you're a well-established business anyway, so that's you're a big name in the market. But it all of a sudden makes people want to use you more. And you get that brand loyalty through the convenience that you're giving the consumer. And then obviously that's the plan for where you're looking to move forward. So as part of that, we've accelerated what you're doing at the moment. If we're sitting here in 5 years' time, or 3 years, or, in a few years' time, where can you see the most impact being made?
Well, there's so many answers to that question. How long do we have? I mean, just at a high level, digital transformation for us has multiple focus areas. I mean, there's digitizing what we do today, right? And I talked about one great example of how we're working with our partners, our channel. If you want to digitize this industry, we can't just digitize ourselves. We have to help our partners, many of them small and medium businesses, family-owned businesses. We've got to help them have the tools so that customer experience, it can be a fantastic experience. So, that's just one angle. Our factories, over 180 manufacturing facilities worldwide. There's so much opportunity there in terms of improving our safety, increasing our yield, reducing the input of materials, that we can gain through whether it's IIoT and AI learnings as we look at our factories' efficiencies. It's another major area of focus for us. But, I think the thing that gets me most excited is about net new business opportunities. When you think about your roof, if you do, that may not be a great thing because there's probably a leak potentially, and it might be an emotional event. But look, forever the roof, if it's been done properly, has kept you dry. And in many cases, there's an aesthetics element. But we see this as this amazing untapped real estate. Already we're producing power. GF Energy is our energy company, solar company, that's working on a revolutionary product, to make energy from every roof a reality. But beyond energy, it's the perfect place to do things like propagate telecommunications with the coming 5G wave and antenna densification. Why can't the roof play a significant role in filling that gap so that we have better coverage? As we have autonomous vehicles and we have drone deliveries, why wouldn't the roof be a logical place to help with that navigation or even to accept deliveries? There's so much that you can do. Carbon sequestration in the materials themselves, green roofs, which are, I think, more common in Europe than they are here in the US today, but it's this extra living space and things that you can do. And so we just see so many different uses for just the roofing part of our business and this convergence, digital with physical products, that is going to really take off. I mean, for years, software has been on this amazing tear and, it's just brilliant. But the legacy industries have lagged behind. And yeah, we've used software as our ERP system or our CRM. Yeah. But now we're seeing digital products. Digital is becoming part of every product. And that is a mindset shift away from IT serves the business and our product is this physical thing. Now it's a converged product.
Does that also link to, you've probably touched on it, but the linking then of all the different sub-businesses underneath standard industries, they all then can merge and sort of help each other in different ways. You say the energy business working with the roofing business, and then there'll be certain other areas that they can all link together because of where they may have been separated or running in completely different paths. But now with the digitization that you're going through, it actually brings it all under one roof and links them together more. So you become more of a stronger business.
There's definitely a Venn diagram there where we have support. And in some cases, some of our businesses are already, in the service of providing materials to other businesses. SGI, our granulars company that creates the fines, the small rock particles, that goes into roofing, it goes into construction material. And they're, a major vendor to GAF, our roofing company. And so we see more of that happening across the board as digital becomes part of every company. There's going to be more overlap.
And that also then leads down to, as you say, the partners that you have, family-owned businesses as well, helping them get on that, I don't know if that's even a saying, but the digital ladder, or showing them what can be done, which then helps them. And then it just all becomes all self-fulfilling and everyone helps each other. One thing I always ask, you've had lots of experience, you've given advice, you've had lots of advice. I usually ask one piece of advice that you would give other tech leaders, to change it up to what's the best piece of advice you've received or someone's told you that, and there's something that's stuck with you.
Oh, wow. That's a great one, man. Actually, let me start. I'm going to offer you up an answer to your original question, and then I'll go there. I mean, because, something that I see that I've learned through experience, ironically, because what I'm going to say is, and this might be counterintuitive, is that as you're scaling your team, as you're growing your team, as you're out there battling for talent, don't fall into what I call the experience trap. And what I mean by that is, look, technology is changing so fast and it's only accelerating. I've been in this game longer than I care to admit, so I can promise you that the tools and the methodologies that were best practice, which is a term I hate, but, which were cutting edge, are now laughed at. They're already out of date. And so when you're looking to bring that team in, hire for the ability to learn, hire for the ability to solve problems, and invest in training and retraining. Whatever the hot skill is today that you need is perishable. 2 years, 3 years from now, there'll be a new programming language. There'll be a new technology that they need to learn and adapt to. And so, focus there versus, I love it when people say, I'm building a team to change the world. And then they go out and they recruit for people with 20 years experience with this certain technology. It's like, wow, it sounds like what you want to do is copy the last 2 decades versus change the world. But so that's the answer to the question you didn't ask me. The question you did ask me, what's the best piece of advice? This great resignation is a topic that's on everyone's mind, right? I think the pandemic has had everyone do a reset, or many people do a reset and really look at what they want to do. When I have been in that position where I was considering making a change in industries, which I've done several times, which kind of makes you feel like you're starting over when you walk away and you have to learn so much new. A mentor of mine told me, he said, look, as long as you are running to something, don't run away from where you're at. But if you're running to something, if you're energized by and you're excited about that next opportunity, that's when you know that it's the right move for you. And then, I followed that advice to Standard Industries, and it's worked out quite well for me.
That's actually brilliant advice. I think you get a lot of people looking and the grass is always greener. So you run away from where you are at the moment without actually having a true purpose. And that's something that I was speaking to someone we're going to have on the podcast in a few weeks, a business called Loop, an insurtech business in Austin. They're a very purpose-led business. Well, one of the things that they're finding, and we're talking about the Great Resignation and people just leaving their businesses, having a business where people feel part of a journey, or we're here, we're going to get here, and this is how we're going to go about doing it, and having a purpose is the most important thing for any business that is hiring. We're a staffing business, right? I talk to CTOs, CEOs, heads of engineering all day, every day, and everyone's trying to hire at the moment and they're struggling. Not everyone's struggling. The businesses that are struggling are people that are just going to say, okay, well, we'll pay X amount of dollars for this person. And, they'll just throw money at the situation. And all that happens is someone will accept their offer. And as soon as someone else comes around with slightly more money, they'll go and leave them. Or they'll join for 6 months and then go bank some money and then go elsewhere. The businesses that are really thriving and not spending as much money as these other businesses are the ones that say, this is our, like for instance, Standard Industries, the CEO's got a plan, they're championing it, and it's led down, and then the actual application, that's bottom up. So they're part of that journey and moving the business forward. So the answer to the question that I didn't ask is, if you're going to be building a tech business or a tech function or any business at all, we've been running for 2.5 years, so we're a startup ourselves. When we're hiring people, they have to believe in the journey that I'm explaining and feel part of that. So having a true mission and a purpose to the business and making people feel part of that. Someone told me about this story about NASA. Their thing is, we're going to put man on the moon, right? And there was a caretaker in the corridors. Someone asked you, what are you doing? He didn't say, I'm mopping the floor or I'm cleaning up. I'm helping put man on the moon, because from the bottom of the business to the top, everyone, or the organization, or NASA, I don't know how you wouldn't describe them as a business, but the top, from the bottom to the top, everyone had the same mission. No matter what he was doing, that's what we're doing. And setting that goal out will get you the best talent. We'll get you the people that want to be part of something and can learn and adapt. Overall, just get you exactly what you want from your business. You don't want a lot of mercenaries. People with 20 years experience who just jumping, coming over to get that. It's not going to help. And so, it's brilliant advice. So thank you very much for that. One more thing. This is obviously the Austin Tech Leaders podcast. So we haven't even touched on Austin yet as a place. I know obviously Standard Industries, but New York based, but you are an Austin resident. You've seen the big growth in the tech scene in Austin. What do you like most about seeing that, and what do you think has been the catalyst of that?
Austin is a city that has, a history of tech innovation, even though it's very in vogue to come to Austin right now, and we welcome you. As a technologist, I cannot imagine a better place to be right now than Austin, Texas. But I think that comes from really just an energy from the city that is proud of being a tech-forward city. And Austin has been a tech-forward city for years, dating back to whether it's Michael Dell's founding of Dell and before that, the semiconductor industry that's here. And I do think that one of the things that I've seen change that's really exciting is the breadth of technology here. We've got mega cap to startup in hardware and software. If you want fintech, you want martech, you want build tech, insurtech. I mean, you see where I'm going here. You want to be in robotics, you want to be in energy technology. There are companies of all sizes here really taking advantage of Austin. And why Austin? I mean, of course, we have the university here. We have a history of really being business friendly here. But I would say that it's so much more than that. Whether you're into the environment and spending time outdoors, it's a fantastic place to be active. Whether you're into the legendary music scene here, which is great, or international sporting events. I mean, my boys and I just went to the U.S. Grand Prix. My son's a Ferrari fan, so it didn't turn out so great. But what an amazing event, there with our closest 300,000 friends to root on the F1 circuit. And there's just something for everyone here. And I think that what makes Austin a little different is it leads to a more balanced life than just my experience and other tech hubs. There's always something going on. There's always something to do as a technologist, but there's always something to do outside of the day job as well. And it's just a fantastic place to be.
Do you think that helps a lot because obviously, like as say in the Valley, it's tech, and everywhere you look is that. Whereas obviously Austin, as you say, is probably the number one place in the States, maybe the world, to be at the moment. But there is lots of other things to do. It's not just a place where those tech businesses are. you can go, say, to the Grand Prix, or, South by Southwest or Austin City Limits Music Festival, or, go and do all the outdoor activities.
And we have a very successful football club now in
Yeah.
Austin.
So I just had Wes Jackson, who's the CTO from Freewires, who are the sponsors. I just spoke to him on the podcast a couple of weeks ago. So, yeah, I'm gutted because I am coming out on the 10th. I think they're away that weekend, but I was supposed to be the weekend before and it's home. So I spoke to Wes, he was going to go to the game, but unfortunately I'm going to miss it. And we were supposed to come out for the last weekend when the Grand Prix was on. We couldn't because of flight restrictions. There's no other restrictions been lifted, so we're out. But yeah, I can't wait to get out there. But yeah, the soccer team's doing pretty good from my understanding, and they're not a bad side. So I'm looking forward to watching them. But yeah, I personally, as I say, we're currently in London, coming out in the next couple of weeks, and then we're landing the whole business. And I'm moving the family out, which is really exciting. So I can't wait to become a resident.
Welcome, and you're moving at a perfect time. The weather is fantastic this time of year.
As you can probably tell, the sun's not really my friend, unfortunately. I'm not the most olive-skinned of people, so I'm a little bit worried about the summer, but I'm sure I'll be okay.
Absolutely. That's why God gave us air conditioning.
Yeah, thank God, yeah. I'm going to need it. But look, Rich, I could sit and talk to you all day. I really, really, really appreciate your time. It's been fantastic. What you're doing at Standard Industries is a really amazing job to be doing and, to be a part of. I really appreciate your time. I really appreciate you sharing everything, your story and your knowledge with us. If anyone listening in or anyone from any of our meetup groups or would like to get in touch, where's the best place for them to be able to do that?
You can always reach out to me. It's real easy. It's rich.robinson@standardindustries.com. That's the official channel, but you can hit me on LinkedIn, where I'm probably a little more prolific than I should be, but I'm so passionate about organization building and technology. So I'll bounce between those subjects. You can find me in there, and let's link in and let's get together and talk. And if you want to join an amazing company and do something with those tech skills that really matters, let me know.
Perfect. Well, Rich, thanks very much for your time. It's been great chatting with you, and congratulations on everything you're doing there. You're doing a fantastic job.
Thanks, Patrick.
Cheers.
Cheers.